ship. The size of it is far beyond the mind's reach. It can't be another ship. Sir, it's like something I've never seen before, and it's closing in at a preposterous speed. Wait, this can't be. It's disappeared.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the stream. We're live. We're live, and it's chaotic. What is an Anton and Co stream without it being chaotic? I was actually doing some last minute testing on some things with the BF, and was like, I'm gonna be late to the stream because I'm still testing some stuff. So, currently testing multiple USB using USB hubs or USB hubs. So I'm wanting to use the BF for an interview this week, where I am. Sorry, I got sidetracked. Where I wanted to use the BF for an interview. To do that, I want at least power delivery and monitoring at the same time. I bought a freaking Mac. I bought a multimedia hub from Small Rig. It didn't work. I had another one that didn't work. And then I had just a random one from like my MacBook Pro, and it worked. So I now have I now have video information going to the Pyro 7, which will ultimately push out a Bluetooth signal to my phone or a tablet so my client can see it. And I'll also have power delivery. So that'll be cool. Right in with the big questions. So this stream is titled Sigma BF Q&A. And is the FP being phased out? So if you guys missed it, a couple weeks ago, I posted a video about lrumors.com stating that the FP is being discontinued. And I was doing some research, doing some digging, and I have some information. But I first want to see if we've got audio. Can everybody hear me? Everybody in the stream, all two of you so far. YouTube likes to take its sweet time to tell people that the live is going on. So let me just check in, make sure all the audio is working, and then we'll get into it. And I'll give YouTube enough time to be like, hey, there's a stream happening. So let's see here. If you are joining the stream, let me know where you're watching from. That is one of the, I always like to see where people are coming from, where they're watching from. And it's funny, I went to New York last week and I had someone stop me. I was down in Chinatown. Somebody stopped me and they were like, I didn't know you lived in New York. And I'm like, I don't. Well, first I was like, are you talking to me? Like, I wasn't sure. And so, but yeah, I always like to see where people are watching from, where their kind of audience is. All right, I'm going to check my audio. Awesome. You sound good. I love how I have a lamp back here where you can't see it because the computer's in the way. I did all that practical lighting for nothing. All right. So, is the Sigma FP being phased out or is it being discontinued? Uh, Ezreal, you might want to turn the volume up. I just checked the stream. It looks like I'm my audio syncing. But let me know. Yes, I will get the BF, but I can't use my microphone setup. Have you found a workaround using USB-C to aux? I've never had an issue, if I'm honest. I've never had an issue with uh, any type of audio. That being said, I've gotten to where, because I would prioritize seeing, like, for YouTube videos. I've done a couple YouTube videos with the BF. I just like Sigma. I love their skin tones. I love their skin tones out of camera. So I actually prefer them over the flagship Lumix cameras I have. Love my Lumix cameras, but different kind of niches, so to speak. I love skin tones on Sigma cameras. And that's why I want to use it for the interview this weekend. But let me put this down because I actually do have a solution for you. I don't remember what brand this is, but this is a USB-C to 3.5 millimeter cable. This one's worked for me. I've used it on the DJI mics, the lav mics. I've used it on my Zoom F3 for doing like the Shure SM7B if I want to bake in. I don't think there's anything special about this one. I think this is like a no-name brand, but yeah, look for something that has, like, you might have to, I don't know, if the 3.5 is going to work for you, but this is what's worked for me so far. And then I haven't really, I think the reason why everyone is not having success with audio, and it may not be your specific situation, but the reason why everybody's having issues with audio is I think they're trying to go USB to or USB-C to USB-C. And I haven't had a ton of success with that, if I'm honest. Converting the USB-C or adapting USB-C to 3.5 has been my go-to. But right now, I am, or for this interview that I'm doing this weekend, or these testimonials I'm doing this weekend, I am, I'm just using a lav mic. I think I'm using the Tascam DR10L. And so that will capture all of the talent audio, and it's only like an hour shoot. So, and I'll just use the BF and use the audio from the BF as a scratch audio. And so I'm not super worried about the audio, but I did want video feed, not only because I'm behind the camera, so like I don't necessarily need it, but I want the client to be able to see the feed. And I'm supposed to be reviewing the Pyro 7, and I've taken so long to review it because I've kind of just tried to work out all the things I like and don't like about it. But for the BF, I want to make the video kind of centered around the BF, how it's good for the BF, and for that matter, the FP, simply because it does give you a wireless signal without having to have an additional transmitter. So, yeah, that's the goal there. Let me see. Am I in focus? Yeah. Okay. The BF is really great at autofocus, but I think, so I'm on the BF right now. I'm on the BF with a teal and orange profile. And with the BF, I like the autofocus is really good, but I think similar to what Lumix was doing supposedly with their phase detect, I don't think they're using phase detect in the UVC mode for here, for the BF. I don't know if the S12 uses phase detect on in UVC mode, but I don't think phase detect is happening with UVC on the BF, simply because, again, I've done a couple of different YouTube videos, talking head videos, and it never hunts and it will track me. But I think because what it does is it basically takes the feed or the video from 4K, 6K to 1080p at 120 frames, which is really nice. But I think it goes down to contrast detect. That's my theory. So I'm on a Sigma 24 f1.4, but I'm manually focusing it. All right, so we're like 9 minutes in, something like that. I usually try to wait to talk about some of these things until about the 10-minute marker, simply because, again, YouTube is not that great at telling people that the live is live. Okay, so hey, is the FP being discontinued? So here's what's going on with the FP right now. And I'll be honest, I may actually get in trouble because I don't know if this is public knowledge. But basically from basically they are once the FP is sold out, they're not manufacturing them right now. So it's not quite discontinued at this point. So that is kind of what the situation is with the FP. They're no longer manufacturing it, and so when supplies run out, it will most likely be fully discontinued. Obviously, Sigma, if you have a warranty, that will come into play and things like that. So don't worry about necessarily that stuff, which makes me sad because I love the FP. But I'll be honest, like that's one reason I wanted to go live talking about the BF is for everything that I love about the FP, and I do love the FP. When I made my the FP potentially being discontinued video a couple of weeks ago. I was color grading some old footage. And it's magical how good that footage looks, how much information it retains. And honestly, if I do any more narrative work or anything that requires that cinema camera look, honestly, the FP is my go-to. I still have my original FP. And cheers, by the way. I still have my original FP and the USB-C ports going out on it. I'm probably going to try to fix that because I really do enjoy its performance in Cinema DNG 12-bit RAW. There is nothing at that price point, as much as I love LUMIX and the cinematic kind of like quality that LUMIX offers. The FP in image wise is unparalleled at that price point, in my opinion. You could say maybe the Pocket OG, and that's why a lot of people that are interested in the Pocket OG or the OG Pocket camera from Blackmagic, why they're now looking at the FP because, maybe they're wanting to move up to 4K. That's why a lot of those people are interested in that. Savage Filmmaker, I think, just got an FP because he had originally checked out the Pocket or the OG Pocket and loved its performance, loved the image quality. And that is, again, it's just not something you're getting with the modern cameras. And this could be a whole tangent on, cameras are kind of boring right now. Like every camera almost does the same exact thing. I think LUMIX, I have a bias to LUMIX. I use LUMIX. I work closely with LUMIX. And I say this with all the unbiasedness that I can. I think LUMIX is offering something in the market that not anybody in that echelon of cameras is offering. Maybe Nikon too. Because Nikon has raw red patents and things like that. So I think for filmmakers, they're potentially offering something that Sony or Canon are not, and for that matter, even Lumix are not. And I think Lumix is offering its own set of tools and its own things that just make it that workhorse camera. I love my Lumix cameras for if I need a workhorse camera. If I'm doing something where I just need the best image and I can work around some of the quirks, I'm using Sigma cameras because that is what they have chosen to honestly like kind of like be their thing. Is they are color focused. The fact that they have I think they're still developing the Foveon the full frame Foveon. I don't know where that project is, but the fact that they have cameras that have their own sensor because they're focused on film like colors and accuracy and things of that nature. Even with their digital cameras, you know that they're going to try to dial them in to focus on those color accuracies and overall just color richness. Again, like this is straight out of camera. This is using the UVC with the teal and orange. I think I maybe have it like up a notch because you can always put like how much of the style you want on there. Um, but I think that is something that I love Sigma cameras for. So whenever I can, I'm going to use Sigma cameras for just the image. Now, are they inconvenient? Absolutely. And that's where like I would talk to my Lumix reps and be like, look, if I need something that's going to just not stand in my way, I'm using my Lumix cameras because those are my workhorse cameras. I have a shoot on July 4th for an event, and I'm using the S1R Mark II and I'm using the S1 II. I'm not even considering bringing my Sigma cameras because again, those are I'm run and gun. I need fast pace and I need to have the camera not get in my way. And so that's where that scenario is. But for this interview that I'm doing this weekend, or these, it's a really like brand testimonial or brand video. And this one it's a sit down talking head. We can take our time. I can lock off the autofocus. So I don't, even though I do like the autofocus, I still a little bit am timid to trust it fully, just because of how bad the autofocus was on the FP. But I will use the BF, and I might even use the BF in the 10-bit color modes, just for faster turnaround, or I'll use an L log. I do enjoy L log. But that's kind of where I am. All that to say, yes, a lot of cameras are boring. My Lumix cameras are sometimes boring. They are all made to do everything they can do. And so it excites me when a camera that is so inconveniently not boring comes along, and I just want to use it as much as I can. I had that with the FP, and I have that kind of now with the BF. And if I'm completely honest, and if I'm being very candid, it took me a long time with the BF to get to a point where I enjoy using it. Because there are a lot of things that it's Sigma, but it's not the FP at all. And I think some of my earlier videos, I wanted to kind of compare it and say it was similar to, and it's nothing like the FP. You know, one, you have 10-bit versus Cinema DNG, and there's that. But the fact that you have, so I haven't gotten official information around the base ISO, but I've had to do a lot of research on my own. You know, I found that I do think that is a dual native sensor, a dual native ISO sensor, and I do think that you're going to get the most dynamic range at 400 or 400 ISO. You're going to get the cleanest image at 100 ISO, and the Mac is killing me today. And to 2000. I'm stuttering now. In 2000 ISO. So I have a couple of pictures. I could probably bring them up, but I have a couple of pictures that I took while I was in New York last week. I went for build, ended up skipping out on build and just going around doing street photography. But that I used 400 and 2000, and some of those 2000s, I didn't have to do any denoising, and they came out really well. All right, I'm gonna take a break, get some of these questions or comments. Lumix and Nikon are trying to grow. Other big three are just trying to raise rent for the market share, for sure, for sure. FP might be the last time they were going for mass appeal in the current landscape. BF was smart to go super niche. FP will become more desirable in hindsight and hopefully warrant an update sometime. You know, it's funny you say that, because I think when the FP came out, they felt the same way that they did with the BF. And I feel like any Sigma cameras, they're all niche. Like the Quattro, all the predecessors, all the Foveon sensor cameras, everything has been like in its own right, super niche. And for that matter, yeah, you're right. I think the FP out of all of their cameras has had the largest appeal. And so you're absolutely correct on that. And I think in my heart of hearts, I hope that one day I actually used to think this, and I don't know if I still do. I used to think that I would want a full-fledged cinema camera, but I don't think I do. I think the more I've matured as a creator, I find myself being more of a hybrid shooter anyways. We've had the discussion a lot lately around what we would want out of a Lumix cinema camera if it ever came. And I've started telling my friends that are Lumix creators with me of, I don't really think that I want that anymore, because the S1 II is as much of a cinema camera that I need, while I can also, because I'm getting hired for photo gigs just as much as, like, for the 4th of July event, I'm getting hired to be the lead photographer, and I'm actually hiring my nephew to do the video, just because, like, that's just the need. And so I need a hybrid camera, and the fact that the S1 II is as close to a cinema camera that you can get in a hybrid body, is plenty of what I need there. So, also, side note, uh, thank you guys all for joining. It's Friday night at 9 o'clock. I wanted to post a second video this week, and just I've been slammed with an editing gig that I have, and just vacationing and going to build and all this stuff. So it has been crazy. Let me see if I can pull up these photos from the New York trip, just to see if I just show you guys like what I mean by the dual native sensor. Um, I was doing some night photography, and that 2000 ISO, like, it was kicking ass. Like, it kept up. It wasn't. I mean, and again, I'm not applying any grain to some of these images, and my plan, I really hadn't planned to show these images, but I figured while we're here, let's maybe do it. Let's see if I can find them in Lightroom first. There we go. I'm pretty sure we are here. Okay. Can I share my screen? Ignore that background. All right. Let's see. Present. Da, 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 da. Allow. Let's do entire screen, screen 2. Oh, here's what we'll do. Hold, please. So when I was in New York, like I said, I just went, I took the family to build. My wife's best friend lives out in New York City. And so I was like, let's multitask here. Let's get a family trip going on, but also, like, I want to take you guys to build with me. So, all right, screen 2. Let's see if this works. There we go. All right, so let me close some of my things here. So I think this is 400. I think that is, how do I get rid of my, here we go. Well, whatever. That one's 400. That one should be pretty standard. I think that one, I was using the Sigma 45 millimeter f2.8. And that's what got this. This was literally just outside of our hotel. And I was just like, that's really cool. So that's 400. Let's see if we can keep this going. So this one was one of my favorites from the trip. So much color. And I used a preset for this one. I used my buddy Pav from Pav SZ, his presets. Shout out to Pav. But this is one of my favorites. I think this one's still 400 because I don't think I was experimenting as much with this one. Let me see. I need my computer to cooperate. There we go. Yeah, so that one is 400 ISO still. So that one's there. Let me see. We've got 400 still. I started just compensating with shutter speed on this one, or yeah, I guess I'm in photo mode, so it's shutter. shutter speed because the BF just automatically goes to shutter speed whenever, as opposed to shutter angle, whenever you're in photo mode. So that's another one. Still, I think that one actually, I usually try to stay around 200, 200 shutter speed, or 1/200. But that one is ISO 400 as well. So that one came out kind of nice. I need to post some of these. I'm going to eventually do like my experience with shooting the BF in as a street photography camera. Let's see. So some of these are never going to see the light of day. So like this one, that one is 1/30th of a second, 400 ISO. Say that one's one thousandth of a second, 400 ISO. So I try to keep it at 400 ISO, but I was like, you know what? I'm rocking an f2.8 lens. I really need to push. And I've been trying to figure out where to push this camera. Like, what's the second base ISO for this camera? Is there a second base ISO? And I think that was one thing that really got me into not wanting to use the BF as much, because I thought it was going to be 100 and 3200, similar to the FP. And so I would rock 3200 or even higher, because the FP can go really high and still be really clean. It's just not the case with this camera. Like, you go high, it's going to have a lot of noise. And I'm not a huge fan of the noise pattern on this camera. It's not terrible, but it's not great. I wish that they would have. It's not the greatest noise pattern, in my opinion. Oh, Kevin Zhang says, oh, let me get my mouse over there. There we go. I actually just picked up a Sigma BF from Sammy's, so this is quite serendipitous timing for a live stream. Absolutely. Dude, what color did you go with, black or silver? I honestly, like, there's a small part of me, I was going to buy a second S1 too, just to have like an A and B cam. And I don't think financially it's going to work out at this time, but because I can get my hands on an FP for a lot less money, retails for 2,000 or right about on 2,000 now. And if I buy used, or if I find somewhere at a discount, I can, potentially bring that down. I've actually been like, is it logical for me to have two BFs, so I can have a silver and a black, but use it as an A and B cam for interviews? And so I'm trying to talk myself into it. I got silver. It was the only one they had, but it was color I wanted. Yeah, I almost went black, because similar situation. Sigma was like, if you want black, I can send it to you today. But if you want silver, you got to wait a couple weeks. So, and then thankfully somebody like canceled their order, and so I got bumped up in line. So it was kind of nice. That's what I'm saying, Kevin. That would be fire, right? Have a silver, have a black, have like a L log. I think my one deterrent is the internal storage, because I don't think for interviews I'm going to do more than 2.5 hours, I think was what 6K you can do. But it just makes me nervous that I'd be locked into just that storage. I would love, 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 love if Sigma would open up the USB-C port for recording directly to an SSD. That would be dope. And I think that would make me have an A and B BF. What would you ride? What would you ride the highest ISO limit at then? Was trusting 12,800 like the FP, silver all the way, by the way. Oh, for sure. I honestly, in my experience, now I haven't pushed it, just because like I just got to the point where I'm loving the images that come from the BF. And the highest I've pushed it is 2,000. And that's not incredibly high. But the one thing that's nice about it is it's super clean. And if you're looking at something like the LUMIX S1 R2, that's also kind of that lower ISO performance. And so while it's 24 megapixels and not 40, I think 40 something megapixels, it still has that range. And so I would say this is definitely not as low light as the FP. And to your point, if if you're using 12,800, that's great because the FP also has, I think, more attractive noise. And so, that's something to consider. But yeah, I would say 2000. I'll maybe make a caveat if I figure out that something higher is better. I did do a quick, and I used to have them loaded in my Lightroom. I took them off because I hate clutter on my Lightroom. But I actually did a lens cap test, and that's where I saw that the 2000 was really clean. Because as I roll through the ISO levels, you could see that noise kind of not disappear, but drastically go down. And so that is, oh no, sorry, I just saw Chris's thing. But that it definitely it went way down. So that's where I was like, I think technically the dual ISO for noise is 100 and 2000. I think if you want dynamic range, 400 is going to be the way to go, because somebody put out there that 400 is what they are making the auto ISO go, because that is going to be kind of an HDR mode at that point. It's like a built-in, already enabled, almost like a dynamic range boost type thing. And so 400 is definitely kind of the lower ISO level, but the higher, I would say 2000. Here, let me get to I'm going to get, you guys were awesome. Let's see. That would be fire. Oh, it really, USB-C to SSD would be great. Out of curiosity, do you have a preferred BF grip or just roll without one? So I actually just picked up, well, actually, no, let's be clear. I ordered a grip a month ago. And so if you look at the thumbnail, that's the grip that I'm using right now. It is actually, this might be conveniently enough since I have Lightroom pulled up. Let me get my cursor back there. I'll pull up the thumbnail because I'm actually, I would show you, but I'm actually on the BF. I have a strange feeling that it's the other direction. I took the thumbnail with my S1R and I think the dates are off. Actually, here, I'll do this. Wasn't 1 hour ago. Recently. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So there's the grip. This is, I think there's a couple different brands that are doing this. I'm pretty sure it's a company out of China, but they're doing, I think they have a couple of wooden grips. And then they're doing this, they have a black version and a silver version, to kind of match the cameras, but that's the one I picked up. I like it so far. I like it because it has those small details, right? So, one thing I love small detail wise about the BF is under the quarter 20, there's a locator pin next to it or behind it, which I want every camera to have either 2 quarter 20 at the bottom. If you're remotely a video camera, 2 quarter 20 at the bottom or a locator pin, because Lord knows when you mount any type of cage or any type of system to that quarter 20 is only going to stay screwed in for so long. And having that locator pin is or a secondary quarter 20 is just a little bit more secure. And so, yeah, I do like it because it does have the grip has a place for quarter 20 or screw into the BF's quarter 20, and it has a spot for that locator pin. So that's pretty cool. And it has on the bottom of the grip, it has an extra spot for camera strap. So you don't have to go off the one camera strap, which I am. You can actually see my my black Peak Design anchor. I was like, I used to have the red ones, but I was like, I have to get just an all black one because it just matches this camera so much better. I can't have red on this camera. But I have one all black anchor here. And what I've done is I basically, you can buy Peak Design strap connector things. And they're decently wide. And so I've just taken a vintage, and it's in the other room where also I would show you, a vintage Sigma camera strap, and just basically taken both ends and put it in that one hook so that I can just hook it on, throw it over my shoulder. I thought I was going to use it more while I was in New York. I ended up not. So, well, that is what it is. But that being said, all that said too, if I'm using an I series, if I'm using my 45, I may be inclined to go without a grip, period. I actually started just carrying the camera around just by like the body, kind of have like in between the body and the lens. So that's kind of what I was doing in New York. Not even a wrist strap, and that kind of made me nervous, but it is what it is. I've been holding it as is, but it's rather uncomfortable to carry around heavier lenses. Yeah, I would say if you're doing heavier lenses, I would get a grip like this. That's actually going to be in the video that I'm going to make about this grip. I may either make a video on the grip itself or potentially just the like accessories for the BF. But that is one thing that I would say, because I'm actually trying to do some vertiscope with the BF using this brand new bad boy, which is where is I don't know where literally right here. Wow. Which is the C-Ray, the new C-Ray Iron Stars. Is it Iron Star? Yeah. The new C-Ray Iron Stars, the 1.5. So I'm trying to do some vertiscope because the BF doesn't have an open gate mode. It doesn't have, de-squeezing. And so it really probably leans, if I want to do any anamorphic, probably leans to being better for like a vertiscope type scenario. And if you're not familiar with vertiscope, it's just camera vertical and anamorphic lens horizontal. Only really works with like PL lenses. But this would be impossible to use without a grip. So definitely bigger lenses use a grip for sure. Ow. I have such a small office. I hit my elbows all the time. All right, Chris. I'm going to get to this. Bro, I canceled my S1 pre-order. Say it ain't so. I really want a C70 all in one camera. I think I'll get 2 C70s and keep my S5 II for photo and gimbal work. Or I put work in there somewhere. I don't hate that. You got to do what you got to do. I think I've gotten, and I said this a second ago, I have a hair somewhere. Anyways, I've kind of gotten to the point where I don't think cinema cameras are what I need for what I do. I'm doing a lot more photo than I thought I was going to do when I started doing freelance more. And so I need something that's hybrid. But I do like the C70s. They're solid cinema cameras. Did you buy a red? I know there was like a huge flux of people that bought reds. I think you bought a red. Do you still have the red? I won an FP mainly for the small cinema form factor. Who doesn't want an FP? Come on, guys. I'm kidding. I have 2. Yeah, I would definitely use a grip. I would have skipped the one I bought from eBay. Waited if I knew. Oh, IDS works. Confirmed. They're working on a grip. Also, if you want to, for any reason, and actually I'm really excited about it. If you want to rig out the BF, XLCS is actually prototyping some or working up some mock-ups for rigging. I've seen, and he actually posted it, so it's not like super secretive. But I saw the 3D models for it, and it's really cool because actually he's trying to get it to where the cage itself actually matches the diamond texture of the BF. That is one thing I don't like about this grip is they put in a diamond texture, but it's not the same size diamond, so it looks a little off. And I can kind of see what they're doing. They're doing more like this gradual 3D effect, but yeah. Kevin says also, oh, that grip looks like matches the camera somewhat. Actually looks pretty nice. Yeah. I told somebody while I was in New York that I got a grip for, and they're like, doesn't that take away from the design aesthetic? And I was like, that's why I was very particular about which one I got. And so that's this one. And so, yeah, you were saying that you have the same one. Yeah. It took a long time to get here. So, it's been worth it. The other thing that I've been doing too is, and this is actually what I'm using for the interview this weekend. I'll pull this into frame. is I have this small, is it smaller? No, it's newer. This newer kind of like universal uh camera cage type deal. It has two grips on the side, has a 3-pin connection at the top. So I can, do a top handle with a monitor. It doesn't have a locator pin, which kind of sucks, but I can mount the BF down here at the bottom. I can have my like USB hub kind of mounted up here at the top, go into the monitor, have the power supply go into that hub as well. And so that's what I'm using if I'm trying to like do some sort of like rigging up of the BF. And so yeah, it's like a $40 newer cage. It actually kind of helps stabilize footage. So if I'm doing video, that's probably what I'll do. But if I'm just like taking this around, this grip or just strip down is nice. Oh, I'm manually focused. I don't need to be doing all that. All right. Chris says still have my Komodos. There you go. That's what's important. Okay. So let me get back to, because I want to show these. And if I'm out of focus, I'm sorry. I'm at 1.4. I don't know why I chose 1.4 for this life. Let's see. So going back, I don't know why I'm just not doing it by date, but here we go. Okay, so this one was one that I did where, this is one of my favorites. This one I heavily edited, but that one's still 400 ISO. But this one, it's funny. I'm going to show you guys the original. So that's the original, and that's even cropped. So basically, I don't even know what animal this is. We were in a museum, and I saw it there. It didn't have glass in front of it. It was just kind of like over the glass, and I was like, oh, I gotta get the right angle. I got up a little bit higher, and then just overexposed the background in post, and got that. I'm probably gonna print that and put it back here somewhere. I'm really, really pumped about that one. Let's see. Where is oh, here we go. Yeah. So you can see like this one, there's not noise necessarily. But this one is at 2000 ISO. Let me see if I can close some of these things out. 2000 ISO, f3.5 at 200, 1/200 shutter speed. And I didn't apply any noise reduction or anything like that. It's fairly clean for where it is and what it's doing and all of that. Let me see if I have another one. I think this one also, no, it's still 400. I took way more 400s than oh, there we go. That one's not great. That's my kid. I don't love that one. Okay, so this is another one here. So you've got 2000 ISO, f2.8. That one's 1/100th of a second. Pretty decent. Like, again, it's not full of noise. It's not like, again, this camera's not a low light beast, but if you're trying to push it, like you can definitely push it within reason. That one's also 2000 ISO. And so you've got a couple things in here. I mean, you can definitely, so I would say again, like 100 and 200, 100 and 2000 are probably your clean ISO levels. And then you've got 400, which is going to be your max dynamic range. All of that to say, I kind of went down this whole this rabbit trail of saying, like, it took me a while to figure out how to shoot with the BF to where I was producing results that I liked. When I started shooting more at 400 ISO, that's when I started seeing the noise levels that I liked, the dynamic range that I liked. When I stopped trying to shoot it like I shoot the FP, that's when I started to really enjoy it. Typically what I found for me is I will actually shoot it like a cinema camera or like I'm filming something where I'm not really changing my ISO. I'm not changing my shutter speed, and I might change my aperture, to compensate for exposure. Um, and maybe I'll actually change the shutter speed for exposure, but I usually keep the ISO at its base. I don't move it. Um, I'll try to stay like 200 and above for shutter speed, maybe a little bit lower if I need to, or scenarios like this where like this is one picture that I really like from the trip. This is where I had to go down to um 1/50th of a second, simply because of the fluorescent lighting. If you ever have an issue with electronic shutter cameras and fluorescent lighting, just go to one. I know you're gonna have to be super steady or have good IBIS. Go to 1/50th of a second and you'll be fine most of the time. And so that's like I only think I transferred the ones that I had like any type of light banding. Um, these are weird pictures. Yeah, so that one's 1/50th of a second, 400. Kevin Zhang says, "Is the base ISO 400?" I don't have. There's not anything officially that says this. Nothing officially says 400. I think it's all by people doing a little bit of shooting and research. I think you're going to get the most dynamic range out of 400. I do think, like I said before, the dynamic range 400. If you're looking for max dynamic range, that's what I would go with. If you're looking for an ultra clean image and maybe sacrifice some dynamic range, I would say maybe 100 and 2000. But there's nothing officially out there that says this is your. And I've even asked my reps, like, what is the official like uh optimized ISO levels? And so there's nothing officially out there that says that stuff. But I would say again, clean 100 and 2000, and dynamic range 400. So yeah, like I said, I'm probably going to put out a video about the street photography stuff that I did, or just the travel, like more like using the BF as a travel camera, because I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed using it. Um, I had my S1 too, and it kind of stayed because I knew I wasn't going to do any video because my family was just going and going and going. And so I was just like, all right, we're gonna do just photos for this trip. And I really want to fall in love with the BF. I really want to love the BF as much as I did the FP. And so I forced myself to use it, and I ended up really enjoying the camera to the point where it's kind of my go-to YouTube camera at this point. It's what I'm using for my talking head most of the time. It's what I'm using for my streams. It's what I'm using anytime there's the primary shot is skin tones. I think that's kind of where and I don't need long record times. I have a couple of projects that I need just a webcam. I produce a podcast, and we use Riverside to produce the podcast. And we've started just using UVC mode on the cameras to basically have the feed of our camera be on Riverside, because Riverside's really cool because it will basically take all of our stuff and chop it up, use AI to chop up like shorts, and so we can use them for short form content. And before we did UVC, I was recording all of it, kind of like putting the image of what I had in my camera over the Riverside image from my talent. But what would happen is when they would go to make shorts in Riverside, it looked terrible because it was like their MacBook Pro camera. And so I was just like, look, let's just embrace this. Let's, most of these cameras, and I actually did it this past time with the S1 II in UVC mode. But now, because again, I love I love how the colors are out of camera with the BF. I think we're going to use the BF for the next round of recordings. So it's slowly creeping its way into my professional life, and so I'm really excited about that. There's a couple of other ones here. I like this one. This train one is really cool. I think no, that's still that's still 400. So that one's 400 as well. dude, and shockingly too, the autofocus is so good. It is insane how good the autofocus is compared to what the FP was. It is absolutely crazy how far they came with the autofocus in this camera. Is that one 2000? What is happening with my cursor right now? Nope, that's still 400. I think I did everything at 400. Oh, there was one that was 2000. I remember it and I love it. This one. This one is 2000. And okay, I shouldn't have used the other one as the example. This one is 2000 and I like I'm looking at this on a big screen and I don't see a ton of noise. Like if you look closely, you might be able to see it, but this is deliverable. Like this is I'm able to I mean, there's a ton of shadows here and I am not getting inundated with noise. And so that one is yeah, 400th of a second, f2.8, 2000 ISO. So again, super clean. The tracking is so good. So I haven't. I will be honest. Like the tracking. Here I'll go to this view for a second just to talk. The tracking is. I haven't found my sweet spot with the tracking. I just realized you actually have to half press the shutter for some of the tracking to actually work effectively. But yeah, the tracking is insane. It's crazy. So that is something that I've enjoyed. It again, it's just crazy. It's the leaps and bounds they've made with the autofocus is nuts. I've been shooting a lot, basically full auto, and it's been entirely 400 unless at night, 100%. 100%. And that's one reason why a lot of people were saying that 400 is the optimized ISO level for this camera because the camera prioritizes 400 ISO and it keeps it going at that kind of if you put in auto, it will try to do that. Autofocus is crazy for sure. I was surprised. One review mentioned the autofocus was finicky because honestly, been easier to fiddle with than the S5 II for me. You know, one thing that I love about the autofocus on the BF versus like the Lumix cameras is the simplicity of it. It's like, do you want human detection? Do you want animal detection, or do you just want subject detection? And if you want subject detection, you can tap on the screen and it will track whatever you've tapped on. And I'm like, these are things that like Sony is doing, right? Like it's nuts. And I think that was one thing that I often give Chris Nichols. I see him in conferences and Lumix events all the time, and I give him so much shit because he loves Sigma, but loves to hate on Sigma cameras. And I love Sigma cameras. And so oftentimes when and if you're not from, everyone in this channel should know who Chris Nichols is. In case you don't, he is the photo side of Petapixel, or what they used to be with DP Review. But when we see each other, I will find some way to just dig in the knife on either it used to be the FP, now the BF. And we just have this nice friendly banter back and forth. But that was one thing he said in his review was that the tracking and the autofocus is some of the best that he's seen going from one generation of camera to the next. Because a lot of times you get like that gradual build. And this is just like, it went from like garbage to usable autofocus, which is really nice. I will say, at least so far, I like the color profile customization on the FP more. I do too. I do too. I'm finding it a little hard to get the colors that I want out of the BF in the color modes. Teal and orange, I have mixed feelings about. Like I'm in teal and orange right now, and I just feel like they took out some colors that they didn't need to take out to make it more teal and orange. Because I really like the teal and orange on the FP, but at the end of the day, especially for video, like if you're for stills for sure, but for video, like the fact you have L log is, I love L log. I love Leica, like, and I maybe one day I'll own a Leica camera, but if I'm honest, if I'm honest. Oh, Sean's gonna kill me. I'm more excited about Leica log than I am ARRI log on the Lumix cameras. I like ARRI log. I think it's great. I love that it's available on Lumix cameras, but Leica, I like the Leica look because it leans more into the greens. And that's just my preference a lot of times, is to have your greens rich. It gives you that earthy vibe for sure. I haven't seen anything tested, but the BF website specs base ISO 320. Yes. So I have seen that from the spec sheet, that the base ISO, or the best performance ISO is 320. I think with people testing, I think that's when we're seeing, like, people, what was it? I think Blackmagic had this issue a few years ago, where, and even for that matter, the FP had this issue where they put out their charts, and this is what your ISO, your lower end, your higher end should be. Like the FP, it was 100 and 3200. Well, everybody started using and seeing that the dynamic range of the FP was actually better at 800, or even 500 to 6400. Nope, 500 640, simply because, like, you had the same level of dynamic range at the top end as well as the lower end on the charts. So I do agree. Sigma has put out, and I'll go back on what I said earlier. They have put out that 320 is kind of the ISO that the best performance is, but I do think from people's testing, those 3 ISO levels, it would be my preference. Like I said before, and I know I've said it several times, 100 and 2000 for clean, and then 400 for dynamic range. So I love it. I love it. So, yeah, BF. I'm excited about the BF. I sorry, I just saw this picture. I'm going to bring this back up. Also, I was not sharing my screen when I showed you guys this image of 2000. Let me share that. I'm a dummy. So this is a 2000 ISO picture. And again, let me see if I can. Nope. Like, you see some noise, but this is a very usable image. And this again is not denoised at all. And so if I wanted to, I could probably denoise it and get a better image out. But like, it's so clean for a camera that is supposed to really have not great low light performance. I don't know if it's not supposed to have not great low light, but all that to say, 2000 ISO is probably your higher end clean image. I was going to pull up this image here because this one took me forever to photograph because of banding. So you can see I had to go to 1/40 for this one shutter speed, because it's just a bad LED, or I think there was fluorescent lighting, and it's kind of a low quality LED kind of neon light. But I don't even know if I like it all that much. It just took me forever to take. And weirdest picture of the trip. Let's see if I can. Where is my G's? There, I probably even know. No, I don't even know if I can show this, but there's no private parts. These are all mannequins. This is an exhibit in New York, or at least it was. And I walked by and I was like, what am I looking at? So, okay, before I get demonetized, we're going to take that down. Those are some menacing mannequins for sure. I found the BF to have a bit of a learning curve, and I was kind of down on it at first and wondering if I should return it. But the more I use it, the more I'm enjoying it. And I think that's exactly what I felt with it too. I honestly, at the time, and it didn't help that, like, I had just gotten the S1 II. I had just gotten the what's up, Jeff? I had just gotten the S1 II, just gotten the S1R2, and I was really excited about those cameras. And so when I got the BF, and I got it in the mail. I was like, okay, I'm going to cover this camera because like a lot of people know my channel as like Sigma cameras from the FP or maybe the BF. So I'm going to cover it, but like I really enjoy using my LUMIX cameras. And so, but when getting used to it and getting through that initial learning curve, I've really enjoyed using it. And it's, again, I've said it a couple times in the stream, it's slowly working its way into more and more things in my day-to-day life. So not just my like everyday camera or travel camera, but actually, a smaller setup, or, like I said, I'm using it for a shoot this weekend for a talking head. So Jeff, what's up, man? Jeff, I say this every freaking time. You are killing it on YouTube right now. I looked at your subscriber count this past week and I was like, dude, you're at 40,000. I remember it seems like just yesterday, you were like barely getting 10,000. Now you're in like 40s, 50s. You're going to take off, dude. I'm so pumped for you. Meanwhile, I'm going to hold down the teens for like the foreseeable future. All right, y'all. It's been an hour. I think I've talked enough about the BF. I'm really excited about it. I love this camera. I love the LUMIX cameras. I love everybody's got some cool stuff out right now. I love my quirky cameras. And I said this at the beginning of the stream, I have an affection for cameras that are quirky, weird. You got to do more to get more out of them, or you got to do more to get what you want out of them. Something about it. I'm just a glutton for punishment. And so I'm here for it, man. Oh, wow. Next vid is the Oakley Meta glasses. Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. I'm excited about that. I'll have to check that out. I think it made sense pretty quickly with the dial going through the menu options, even when they're not pulled up. Limiting on purpose, but pretty intuitive. Absolutely. Thanks for the stream, Anson. Absolutely. Thanks, Kevin. I hope you enjoy your BF. I'm super excited to see what you shoot with it. They have 3K cameras. Wow. That's crazy. Jeff, it has been a blessing to see you in this stream, buddy. Are you going to get a new FP? I just got an FP like 6 months ago. I haven't used it that much because I've been using the BF. Honestly, I think when it comes down to it, if I have to get rid of all my cameras, I probably will go back to the FP. I love that camera. I will always love that camera. And it is a fantastic little camera. FPL here, loving my prints. Oh man, with that 61 megapixel camera, absolutely. Yeah, I love these cameras. And if you can get, that's the biggest thing with any camera. Once you get past like the learning curve of the camera, like I think this is where I said I was leaving. Maybe I'm not. I think this is where cameras are, right? I think all the cameras that are out there right now is really kind of geared to make life easier as a creator. And I appreciate those cameras. Or, in the sense of like LUMIX doing Arilog, like making certain parts of the industry that were once not accessible. And I appreciate that. But I think I'm getting to a point where, and I've always been here with the FP, is when it comes down to it, it always comes back with cameras to me is what image do I love the most? And out of every camera I've tested, every camera I've used Sony, I've used Fuji, I've used Canon. I have an RP right behind me. It's one of my friends. I've used obviously LUMIX. I've used a lot of different cameras, and image wise, I always come back to Sigma cameras. And maybe it's because they're they're not even the underdog. They're like no one talks about these cameras, but they offer such a rich rich image. And if I can make I love the challenge of getting the image that I want from these amazing cameras that offer an amazing image and being able to use them in environments that no one is trying to use them in. It's a challenge to me, and I love that challenge, and it gets me excited. It gets me, you know, I'm not that much of a glutton for punishment where, if all my Lumix cameras are, long-term loan cameras right now, because I had to sell my S5 2X. But long-term loaner cameras from Lumix, full just, transparency there. If I ever had to sell them, I would need to buy another Lumix camera because they are, again, my workhorse cameras. I would not use the Sigma cameras for certain projects. But for those projects where like I need that artsy narrative, that image comes first, look out of the camera, I'm always coming back to my Sigma cameras, and I will always find a way to make them work in that project because out of camera, like they offer some of the best images, the best color science, and I love them for that. So that was my last rant. Okay, I'm definitely out of here. I got to finish my bourbon and hang out with the wife, maybe play some video games. So I'm going to split. Thank you guys so much for joining. It was super. It was awesome to hang out. I have to share. I don't remember the person's name, and I apologize for this, but I had someone while I was in New York say hello to me and recognize me, and like I love that feeling. And you guys, I cannot relay to you how much I love hanging out and talking to you guys. It's why I stream. Streams don't do a ton for me money wise, like they don't bring in the dough or anything like that. I love hanging out with the community, and I hope you guys understand that. I hope you guys see that. And so thank you guys all for jumping in and chatting. And with that, everyone, go and find your journey, go embrace life. Peace.